Alright, welcome back. We're going to be doing another campaign starting guide today. Today we're going to be covering Belegar Ironhammer in Clan Angren. This is definitely an interesting faction, and if you like these guides, be sure to leave me a like, comment, subscribe, all that fun jazz, and we'll just jump right into this, alright? So, I'm going to be doing this video a little differently because this is not a normal campaign. This isn't where you have to get the first few turns right to get a good start, and then you've pretty much got it from there. This campaign just doesn't fall into that category. So, starting with Belegar actually takes a lot longer than it used to in Warhammer 1 and 2, where you would start in this area, secure the province, and then sprint across the map to Karak 8 Peaks. So you can't do that anymore, and we'll talk a little more about that in a minute. But basically, you start down here in Zaraxel with your army up in this area. Instead of starting with Karak, Iser, however you want to say that. Anyways, so you will move to complete your province. You'll fight your starter battle in this area, and then take Karak Bufdar in the first turn. When you finish fighting this battle, you will be able to confederate Karak Hearn, and he will have an army with like 6 or 7 units in it, one of which is a grudge thrower. So you're going to take that confederation, which is really weird, but it's something you want to do. Then you can use the underway and move his army down into this area, and you're looking at taking Karakizor on like turn 3. So you can merge those two armies, get the units you want to out of Karakharn's army that you've gotten, and continue on. So once you have Karak Iser, whatever, once you have the capital settlement of this province, you immediately have to you have to turn around and start coming back south. And the reason for this is because Belegar has his campaign mechanic where until you control Karak 8 Peaks, your upkeep is increased by 50%. So if at this point you take off running across the map trying to make it to Karak 8 Peaks, you have Sartosa and Ikit Claw over here that will move in and just wipe out your starting province in a very short time. This faction here, I think, Talia, I think, they do not last long at all. In fact, on my campaign, every time I've tried this, the best result I've gotten was to get down here in time to fight Sartosa, and this was the only land they had left, was the capital. In this particular one, well, let's just get back to it. So you're gonna move south to come fight Sartosa to begin with, and let Talia try to hold out against the Skaven, and you'll be able to take you should be able to take Sartosa out of the game fairly quickly, and you have to do it very quickly. It's 3 settlements, and once you get to Riff Rafa here, you have to take a settlement each turn. And even then, you take Sartosa and start making your way back, stopping in your settlements to get the replenishment. By the time you make it back to Riff Rafa, Talia has probably been taken out of the game, and you will have Skaven armies moving in behind you. So you've got to come back this way and then fight the Skaven back towards their capital. I honestly did not feel safe leaving, and I still don't at this point. I'm 24 turns into this game, and I've taken Sartosa out of the game, and I've taken Ikit Claw's capital, Skaven Blight. But because of his campaign mechanic to where you have more upkeep on your units, you really can't field very many units. This is all the troops I have in this campaign at turn 24 to be able to support Belegar's army, which is a full stack, and then I have a second lord over here with 10 units in his army. So an army and a half is all I'm able to support, and that's with me having Sartosa, and I did have these settlements. My income actually dropped because I have a beastman herd coming in and raising my settlements. And I also have Karak Hearn's province. So I'm sitting on 2 full provinces, 3 if you count Sartosa because it's just a 1 settlement province. But I did have 4 full provinces to support 1.5 armies. So that's really hard to manage. It's a real pain to get around that shortcoming from the campaign mechanic. I really feel like they need to drop this a little more. But anyways, I had to take Skaven Blight, and I'm leaving this second army that's only half strength in Skaven Blight to try and hold off the Ikit Claw. And there's another beastman herd over here that has declared war, so, you know, between this half an army and the garrison here, I'm hoping they can hold. And this is the point where I'm turning Belegar around, and I'm going to try and find this beastman herd, knock it out, reclaim all this land, and start working my way across. Although you can't really go straight across because I believe this is going to be pretty standard. Warzag's faction, he is working up this way, and he has declared war on me. So I will end up going more north to try and get across to Karak 8 Peaks instead of being able to just jump across, unfortunately. So that's pretty standard for Belegar's trying to get his campaign started. You absolutely cannot turn your back on Sartosa and Ikit Claw here. I mean, they are very aggressive in the early game. So it's going to take you a while just to knock them back enough to where you'll feel safe enough to start working towards Karak 8 Peaks. Now, another thing, you start with your 4 ancestor heroes here with Belegar, and these guys are really good. This DLC that contains Belegar and Skarsnik is probably my favorite DLC that I've gotten, because Skarsnik buffs the goblin units, some of the weakest units in the game. Well, Belegar is the same way. He has some interesting talents to look at. When I'm playing as dwarves, I hardly ever use these ranger units, but I am as Belegar, I absolutely am using them, and I'll kind of go over why a little bit. Also, miners with blasting charges. He buffs miners and rangers. So, we'll take a look at his talents here, and I'll show you what I mean. You have to get level 12 to get Rally the Holds and be able to start working through these. Tunnel Warfare here. Ammunition plus 200% for miner units. So your miners with blasting charges are able to throw like 3 times minimum during a battle. He also gives miners, rangers, and bolt throwers melee defense plus 5 and melee attack plus 5. So again, getting those miners into better shape to where they're more usable. And missile strength plus 20% for rangers and bolt throwers. So rangers, he ends up making them a good bit better than quarrelers, and I believe he's the only dwarf lord like that. But all in all, this talent makes it to where you want the rangers instead of the quarrelers. Then he also has this talent here, which is great. Gives your entire army physical resistance plus 10%. That's a really good talent. That's not really all that important. It's nice, but it's not. So between the points I've put into Axe Lord, Tactician, and this talent, and this as well, my miners and my rangers are really turning it around. So what we're going to now, I'm going to show you what I mean about him buffing the rangers. So if you look at the rangers and the quarrelers in your unit and spell browser, these start with 18 ammunition, which is really about their only shortcoming, in my opinion, from the quarrelers. The range and the missile strength are both the same when you swap between them. The only difference is the quarrelers have a little more ammunition, but you're kind of fixing that with your talents by giving them more ammunition. But look at the missile strength. They both start with 18. When I look at Belegar's army here and the rangers I have, these are at 33, 32 for the lower rank. But 32 missile strength. They're sitting on 28 ammunition. Like, I really feel like they more than hold their own against the quarrelers now. Also, they have Vanguard deployment and Stalk. So your minor units and your rangers, if you feel like it, you can Vanguard deploy with Belegar with all of those units. The other thing is you've got your Master Engineer here, and he is buffing your ranged troops as well. I got ammunition plus 20% here, and triangulation with the missile strength plus 12% for for the rangers again. So with all of that combined, the rangers are really looking good. But it goes even farther, because if you look at your Thane, now you start with 2 Thanes in your army. So with this one, I picked up a Wanderer. That gives my rangers the snipe ability, which means they can remain hidden while firing. So just another buff to make my ranger units even better. And if I look at my other thing, which one am I on? Okay, yeah, with my other thing, I did not take Keeper of the Gate, which would help my hammerer unit, because I really only have one hammerer unit, and it's going to be quite a while after I get Karak 8 peaks before I can build more hammerer units. So I didn't. I opted not to go for this one, and I picked up Ironbeard. And what this gives you is another 50% ammunition for the miners. So, I mean, that's... I'm not 100% if this actually applies, since it's only plus 50%, and I think the blasting charges start with the 1 ammunition. So with Belegar's trait and this one, you're getting 250% ammunition for your miner units, but you know, how do you throw 2.5 blasting charges? You either, or 3.5 blasting charges, I suppose it would be. So I'm not sure that actually comes into effect. I think your miners with the blasting charges will be able to throw their charges 3 times in a battle, and not 4. I don't think it'll round it up, but I'm not 100% on that. So this talent, I'm not completely sure actually buffs your miners that much. I really don't even know if the flammable effect is that much of a buff to this guy, because I think it may just apply to him and not the entire army. So I'm not, again, I'm not 100% sure how useless that is, but I picked it up. So all that taken into account, what I've been doing is recruiting rangers instead of quarrelers, which means in your starting province I opted into taking the ranger outpost instead of the regular the sparring chamber, and upgrading it to the clan barracks for the quarrelers. I didn't even grab that building at all. Every building I have is put into income on this playthrough, just to try and eke out a little more income to be able to support more units. And with controlling this much land, I'm at the break point here. You can see if I go to try and recruit the upkeep, so a quarreler unit would put me into negative income at this point. I could actually have one more unit of miners, but yeah, dwarf warriors, too expensive. And the recruitment cost is, I feel like that may be actually the same on recruitment cost. It's just the upkeep that's increased. But I mean, you can see this little small army with 10 units is costing me 2,300 upkeep per turn. Belegar's army with the full stack of 20 is costing me 4,000 upkeep per turn. So I mean, this debuff is no joke. You're really not going to be able to support many troops. But at this point, if you can make it to this point, with the limited troops you have, I feel like you're ready to start working towards Karak 8 peaks. This is a really hard start, and it takes a lot of work even to get to this point to where you kind of feel a little safer about taking off. and leaving your lands with only half an army to guard it. But that's I think that's all I've got for you on this one. That's the best I can tell you on Belegar, is just be ready for a slog trying to get through the first part of your campaign to get rid of this debuff. Just making it to Karak 8 Peaks feels like an entire campaign. It's really really taxing on you. But that's all I've got for you, so leave me a like, comment, subscribe, tell me what you think about it, and I'll see you in the next one.